What's up, guys? Stefan here from Mod to Fame. I'm standing here with Sergio of AI Media. We are standing in his amazing, one of three amazing garages. Today we're going to focus on the story behind Sergio and all of these cars and the why. Sergio, man, what's up? Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, my name's Sergio Alvarez, as you mentioned, and I've been collecting cars pretty much since I was extremely young. Unfortunately, when I first started collecting, it was one. It was a 1985 Trans Am.
Okay.
That's what really started it out.
Cool. So that was your first one?
That was the first one, and I still have it. So if you think about it, from 1991 to today, the car's gone through about 5 different motors, about 6 different interiors, but I've always been the same owner. And right now, it's pretty much down to bare metal.
Okay.
Putting in a brand new Z01 motor, custom suspension. It went through its life from a V6, where it started, to going through a twin turbo motor that had 1,100 horsepower to the wheels, now to a Z01.
Sorry. Did you say 1,100 horsepower?
To the wheels.
In the 85 Trans Am?
With rear-wheel drive that has no weight in the back. So it was interesting for burnouts, but not so much for driving around.
Okay. So what are you doing now? Why are you taking it apart again?
Well, it's one of those things that you should have left it alone at a certain point in time, and that's one of the things I'll talk about today. Knowing when to stop is a big piece. So that car's actually taught me a lot as to what to do with the supercars. From a V6 to a 350 made a lot of sense. Then I put a supercharger on it, and that's where it really should have stayed. That's what the car could have handled.
Correct.
It was one of those cars that was overpowered, underbraked, like so many cars. But then I decided to bring it a notch further and go in with a 427 small block with twin turbos on it. Again, the 1,100 horsepower. It became undrivable. It really wasn't suitable for every day. Not that I was driving it every day. Right. But it became less fun.
Okay.
So then we decided to say, you know what, let's update all the electronics, the braking, the suspension. And as you get into it, one thing gets into another, and let's go with a brand new Z01 motor. Let's get that into the car. Custom electronics throughout. The dashboard currently is one of. It's the first one here in the United States. It's a 12-inch LCD TV, or LCD, I should say.
So an 85 Trans Am, that's basically a Tesla on the inside.
To a degree, yes. It's extremely, extremely forward thinking. And then we also wanted to build the car so 10 years from now, 20 years from now, the idea is this is something I want to be able to pass along to my kids. All these cars you can buy, not that easily, but you can be able to afford the car.
Sure.
Something like that is something that's a labor of love, something that you built.
Okay. I mean, that's like super cool, man. I mean, you seem very passionate about this. Where does your passion for cars come from?
I liked all things automotive when I was a kid. Grew up in an immigrant family, didn't have a lot, saw my parents work all the time, but one of the things I was able to get, at least on a monthly basis, were the Matchbox cars. So I remember going with my grandma to the store, and back then you had a row, literally 100 of them. It was the Matchbox cars. And being able to pick and choose and be able to say, hey, I really like that one, or I like this one, and then you're looking at the design, even though you're speaking about something this big. So one of the things that I remember, it's kind of funny, I used to always have 2 of them. One that I would beat up, and then one that would be in pristine condition. And in my head, as a kid, I used to imagine taking...
How old was this again?
Young, 5, 6, 7.
You were collecting a one to keep and one...
Well, the idea was that I would take the one that was all broken and not working right, and then be able to turn it into the one that was good. So that's where the idea came from. You know, taking something that wasn't the best, hence what I could afford at the time, which is that Trans Am, which was a base V6, and bringing it into something more through hard work, through figuring out the engineering of it, and then just looking at how the car was built, which was really amazing. Back then, carburetors, being able to work on a car. You look at something like this, you're lucky to find out where the motor is.
Very true, very true. So I'm pretty sure with your love for modifying cars and acquiring cars, there must be a major part of your life. What do cars mean to you?
It's a good question. I think it's a sense of expression. So I can't draw a stick figure, but I can definitely have a great idea on how to take something that's supremely engineered and bring it to something that's mine. It really comes from, first, a deep appreciation of what the engineers have done with the vehicle, and then can I bring it to the next step? Can I make it mine? The last thing you want to do is buy a supercar and then a day later run into somebody that has the same exact car. So to me, it allows you to express yourself with the vehicle, with your custom touches, to be able to say, can I improve on something that's already been giving it out pretty much as best as possible?
Absolutely. That's a great answer. One, because here out, like especially on Long Island, there are other cars like the ones that you have. So it is possible. I mean, someone else, somewhere else may say, well, where am I going to run into another Porsche 911 Turbo S? How often is that going to happen?
Well, it happens quite often, actually.
Exactly.
The quick little story. I remember the day I picked up my 918. So that was a special moment. You're getting a 918.
Yeah.
And I remember driving with my son, and I was telling him about how special the car is, 918 in the world, I believe 297 in the United States, and just how rare it is, and the technology and everything behind it. So as I'm explaining this on a beautiful Sunday morning on Northern Boulevard, the other way comes another 918 in white, like mine. So we pulled over and we looked at each other and we say, only on the North Shore are we going to run into two 918s a couple of days from us picking them up. So that happens in this particular area.
Right.
But then the idea is, all right, so how do you take something that's special and then make it yours? So it is different. So when you roll by, somebody can say that's Sergio's car versus I don't know if that's Sergio or Tom or John or somebody else.
So how long after that day did it take for you to drop the car off to start customizing
On
it?
Monday morning.
I thought so. That's pretty funny. I mean, you're right. Only in a place like on the North Shore or other places.
Yeah, LA, New York,
exactly,
Miami.
can that actually happen? So there is some motive or motivation to make it yours, to make it Sergio's. Another thing that I've been wanting to ask, you buy some of the best engineered cars in the world, yet you change them. Why?
Well, if you think about the Turbo S, one of the big things, it was the first time I ever stepped into Porsche, and I always loved Porsche technology. I respected the cars, but to me, it seemed a little bland. You couldn't modify them the way you wanted to. Now, that's kind of silly to say about a supercar.
Correct.
But there's a difference between a Porsche and a Lamborghini or a Ferrari.
Right.
Not necessarily as far as engineering, because I think the Porsche is just amazing, the way it's engineered.
Yeah.
But the customization and what you can do was limited. So the idea was to get a car that from an engineering standpoint, mechanically and the design-wise, was almost flawless. But then to be able to take it to a next step, so you're not ruining the design, but it looks like it could be part of the factory design. So little by little, once I received the car, I started to sketch out ideas to be able to say, all right, how do we change the car without making it look like it's just a kit car or something that's bolted on? How do you work within the parameters of what Porsche already laid out and modify it using additional Porsche parts that are maybe from other vehicle lines within Porsche, or just coming up with designs that are completely unique to the car itself?
Wow. I mean, you brought something up that a lot of people think when they think modifying cars. As a matter of fact, when you talk to regular people or not car people and you say, I modify my cars, a lot of times what I hear them say is, oh, like pimp my ride? And it's like, you cringe, literally. You're like, oh, no.
Yeah, I'm not putting fish tanks in the back of the car.
Exactly. So the design element of it, I think that's what it comes down to. Where does that come from for you?
Well, it's keeping within the aesthetic. So if we take a look at this car, one of the things behind it is, if you look at it, it really looks like it could be a factory vehicle.
It does.
I actually had the car at a Porsche event, and there was somebody that went up to the Porsche representative and said, is this the new 2017 GT3 RS or GT2 RS or whatever it may be?
Correct.
Because if you look at the lines of the car, everything looks like it actually could have come there from Porsche. Absolutely. The GT3 RS fenders are actual GT3 RS fenders. What we don't realize is that they're not a bolt-on. So there had to be some modification because of the mounting points are a little bit different. So you just can't put them on. So the challenge is, once you get into something, how much further are you going to go? The hood is an actual Porsche aluminum hood. And the beauty behind it is that it is a stock Porsche hood. So if you look at the lines of the car, everything lines up perfectly. Right. I didn't want to go with aftermarket hoods or something that was going to be fiberglass, where you'd have issues lining up between the metal and the fiberglass.
Of course.
Even the custom side sills that are in carbon fiber. So working with the right manufacturer that's going to give you the same quality as the Porsche quality that's coming out. Right. And something silly like even the door mirrors. So at the time, Porsche would not offer carbon fiber mirrors, which should be something that's standard. Absolutely. Or an option, I should say. So we had to make those, carbon fibering the sides where the intakes are going on. Taking the wing, so if you notice the wing, it looks like a stock Porsche wing, but it's actually about 3 inches wider on either side. And I also didn't want to lose the functionality of the active aerodynamics that work on the car. So again, working within the parameters of saying I don't want to lose the aerodynamic efficiencies of the car. Yep. I don't want to lose the bladder in the bottom of the car because again, I don't want to change the engineering, but I want to make the style mine.
I mean, what else could I say?
Well, there's a lot of other things I can do to the car. And then there's the performance angle of it.
You did performance work on this car as well?
So the car has a full exhaust and an ECU tune. And on a vehicle that's turbocharged, as we know, you can get a lot from it. It works also through the stock computer. So when you press the buttons on the car between Sport and Sport Plus, it only activates the extra 100 horsepower when you're going through the Sport Plus. So again, you've got a car that keeps the exact dynamics of Porsche, but allows you the further modification of what you can do for it. At this point, I think I'm done with the car, but that could always change.
So that brings us to our next one. You mentioned knowing when to stop.
That's the hard part.
Knowing when not to go too far. What did you mean?
Well, a simple answer to that would be the wing in the back. So I had the option of going with a much, much bigger and aggressive wing where I would lose the aerodynamics of the car. Okay. I could have done a hood that was going to be a lot more aggressive than this. But then when I started looking at it and sketching it on the computer, I said it's starting to look further and further like it could have come from Porsche and something that I just cobbled together. So you have to know when to say, okay, enough's enough. Right. What other things am I going with? And taste is subjective. Right? Yes. I think so far when people look at the vehicle, they really confuse it for thinking, what is this? Can this actually have come from Porsche? Right. That to me is when I feel I was successful. When there's that question of, did you do this? Or not. Or was this something that was an application that came from Porsche? That's when I felt I did the right job. When they easily say, oh, I see you modified this, that's when sometimes you've gone a little bit too far.
That's a perfect explanation.